Alright, good afternoon. So let's continue our story playthrough. We are now at level 70, and where we kind of last left off was that Trahearne notified us, hey, we're full on now in this whole fighting Zaitan thing, but I got some stuff coming up, and we kind of got this staging point in Concordia, and that's where I want to meet you, and we can prepare to move forward. He's got some representatives there from the Pack's command structure, logistics, etc. So, okay, these all sound like important military things. So we're going to finish our time hanging out with Wild Eye Miller here, one of my favorite random NPCs in the game, who does for me represent one of the things that ArenaNet is very, very good at.
What they did with the bodies, huh?
What bodies,
They don't
Miller?
want you to know, but I know. They use the bodies to rebuild the city. Yeah, bones for rebar, blood for mortar. Yeah, we tread on the flesh of the dead. God, the dead.
Yeah, so I seriously love this, and a lot of games aren't going to have this, and a lot of games aren't going to have that like actually voice acted to where, never mind like the dog and the cat and everything else we got going on here too, but like this kind of stuff is really where ArenaNet shines. It's a shame that we can't get the same quality in like the core things they're marketing that we get with like just the world in general, because the world in general, here's Serial. She's training for her time each year to battle people over in Divinity's Reach and stuff. Like everything we got going on here, as much as I, maybe like the old Lion's Arch more than the new Lion's Arch, like this is all awesome. Um, and somehow we don't always get that same attention to detail and that level of effort and other things. And it's a shame because this kind of stuff is just truly fantastic. And voice acting and these weird NPCs and just the ambiance of the game and the world that they've created is by far one of ArenaNet's like biggest strengths. Really, really impressive, in my opinion at least. Okay, so Concordia. Let's see what Trahearne's got for us. Oh man, we're gonna end up running down there. Okay, cool. Let's do that. Turns out we haven't been down there on this character yet. So as we now are starting to get closer to, the end of the core story, level 70, and then, as we push on into the level 80 stuff, um, these individual instances are going to get longer and longer. So increasingly, we're going to be, on the YouTube side of things, splitting these into um, more videos and probably starting with 70 and certainly with a majority of 80, and then when we look at like Living World Season 1, Season 2, there's going to be a lot of cases where each instance will probably comprise their own video just because they tend to get lengthy, right? And I was playing through on another account, just kind of poking around in some Season 1 stuff earlier today, and was reminded that there are going to be some aspects of, even more so than season 2, 3, or 4. There are going to be some parts of season 1 that are going to be a little bit challenging to put together in the right way as we do this playthrough, because there are a couple of parts that really almost need to be like group activities, and that's something that generally I've kind of been trying to avoid and stay away from in this playthrough. Really just kind of want to play it through individually, but like the Tower of Nightmares, for example, is going to be, that's what I was playing earlier today, and that really is going to be a bit of a trick to do all by myself, because navigating the tower individually can be a bit of a challenge. So I got some time before I get there. I can continue to kind of take a look at it and figure out if it's easier to play by myself in a public instance, or if it's easier to solo a private instance. Today I was in a public instance, and it was with only like 3 of us in there, proved to be a little bit challenging. So we'll work through that. Just something to kind of make note of as we are on our way to Concordia here. I heard someone on a video uh, the other day, and I don't recall who it was or what video it was, but talking about how some of the strongest maps are maps that have variety, and they were using Lornar's Pass and Timberline Falls here as kind of an example of maps that go from more of like an Arctic biome down into a more like alpine or even kind of temperate biome all in one map, and that creates some variety and stuff. And well, I don't think that's a prerequisite for a good map. I don't think it's prerequisite from a gameplay perspective, and I don't think it's a prerequisite from an aesthetic standpoint either. I think there are some maps that are uh, are kind of uniform in their aesthetic and still pretty appealing. I do think it was a pretty valid observation and something at least worth considering in terms of how one might view the game. I did think it was an intelligent observation, even if I don't know that I buy into that quite to the degree that they were promoting. But it was interesting stuff. I think it might have been a guest on Teapot. I genuinely don't remember. Alright, just about there. There we go. If only that tree would move. Let's see what Trahearne has lined up for us. So this is another example where we get to see something in its original state versus the state that it is in the open world. Oh, hey Yoan, what's up?
Damn fine work at Claw Island, soldier. We'll drink to Forgal's memories someday soon.
Alright. Yeah, and we should. We should. So Afnan is going to be relevant in the next couple chapters. We'll talk to Tactician Art here in a little bit. We got some Whispers folks around. We got some Priory folks around. So real quick to close the thought that I kind of started with about this being different. Season 2 altered, apparently permanently. I am disappointed in ArenaNet for not at some point kind of cleaning up the way they left the world after Season 2 when they transitioned from Living World to whatever the next thing was, instance-based Living World, and now we're at I don't know if it's a different thing or what they're calling it, but as they made these transitions, they left Concordia in its post-Living World Chapter 2 or Season 2 state. And it's not the only place. What is it, Fort Salma or whatever, way over here. Fort Salma is in the same kind of situation, and there are events across Iron Marches that must remain there in order for people to play through the story. So this isn't the only example, but here we get the opportunity to see Concordia in its original state from when the game launched and kind of what it was intended to be before the Living World stuff kind of messed it up. So we got some mail here. Logan again telling us, hey, you're doing a really good job, and then gives us an update on his stuff. He is now headed towards Dredgehaunt Cliffs, so now that is the Sorrow's Embrace dungeons. So our regular plug from Logan to hey, do the story dungeons, and of course if we were a different race, it'd be coming from whatever that racial mentor was. We need to convince all the Orders of Tyria that the path I've chosen is the right one. So from a military standpoint, this is one aspect of this instance that I don't like, is that we somehow have to persuade these different entities that Trahearne has credibility. Because that is never, like in real life, if you have to convince people that a military leader has credibility, then you've already lost the fight. Like you don't persuade folks on the military side of the house that way. The idea is laughable. The harder you try to do that, the more credibility that person actually loses. So I don't like this at all, but if you were not military, maybe this would seem like a very reasonable perspective on this. I don't know. All right, let's go talk to these people then. Let's see if we can persuade them that Trahearne has credibility as the marshal of the pact. Yeah, you'll be fine. There we go.
Thank you all for coming. We're here because Claw Island proved the value of cooperation. Our pact has already achieved remarkable results. As the pact's leader, I am adopting the rank of Marshal. I'd also like to present my second in command, one of the heroes of Claw Island, who will bear the rank of Commander. To defeat Zaitan and cleanse ore, the pact needs to go on the offensive. For that, we need a headquarters. I suggest the abandoned fortress on Terzetto Bay.
I know the place. Formidable, easily defensible, and right on Zaitan's doorstep. A solid decision, Marshal Trahearne. The Vigil is with you.
It is a wise choice. The Priory will also follow you to the Pact's new headquarters and on into Ore.
No argument here, Marshal. It's a smart call. Count the Order of Whispers in as well.
Excellent. I'll begin preparing our new headquarters at the Terzetto site, which I have codenamed Fort Trinity. I look forward to seeing you all there. Please, Commander. I'd like to speak with you.
So, I do, speaking of, bones to pick. So I've mentioned before that I do not like that the commander, the player character here, and this is the first time we get introduced as commander, and this is really kind of an important moment, right? In terms of where they went wrong with packaging the commander. So, us, this person in this case, commander, player character here, is introduced at this point in time with the rank of commander, not the title of commander. Those are two very, very different things. Within the U.S. military, at least, only one service actually has commander as a rank. That is the Navy. It is not a terribly high rank. It's a relatively high rank in terms of the population of the Navy as a whole. But in terms of clout, it is not tremendously high in rank. We can imagine that within the construct, because we're second in command here to Trahearne, we can imagine that within the construct of the pact, that this is a higher rank than that. Commander is, in fact, a high rank. That's fine. The fact remains, and really where I'm kind of have a little bit of a strong feeling on this, is it is a rank, not a title. We are not called commander by virtue of the fact that we are in command of all the things, but rather that it is one of the ranks. Marshal is a higher rank. Trahearne is Marshal Trahearne now. These other folks have, here, tactician is this person's rank. So the weird power creep of the player character within lore has already begun and is now exacerbated as we, at some point, we're given this rank, and at some point in the very near future, it becomes a title, and it changes. That changes what we are. From a person who bears a rank to a person who is revered as a thing. That thing being just this, commander of all the things when it is convenient. Now, of course, it's important to have the player character as someone who is influential. Otherwise, the game may not be rewarding, and particularly for a certain type of player who needs that that reinforcement. But it's become a really, really inflated thing, and is really over the top by season 3. It's kind of preposterous, and we see that starting here, and it's unfortunate. All right, Trahearne, what's up, man? You still don't feel like you have their confidence. Well, maybe the problem is you, Trahearne. I don't know. All right, talk to these folks and make sure that they, that we know that all 3 Vigil, Pact, or not Pact, I'm sorry, Priory, Vigil, and Order of Whispers here. Make sure that all 3 are on board. Okay, Priory, win it. A bold move. I hope it's an effective one. Well, do you have concerns? He has the knowledge we need, but will these soldiers and spies listen to him? So she's making the distinction between knowledge and then these other things, because knowledge has credibility in the eyes of the Priory, but she acknowledges it will take charisma, personality, whatever, for these other folks to have, to view him with credibility. Okay, so we now know what the Priory's concern is. What about the Vigil? Smart move. Smarter than I expect. So if it's coming from a perspective of this is tactically sound decision making, or operationally sound, since we're at larger than a tactical level here, right? What are your concerns? One victory doesn't win a war, right? So and that is, very, very true. Um, Capable of leading under fire. Okay, well, yeah, I don't know that those two things are actually related, but and before I commit soldiers to serve, hey man, like that's not your decision, War Master. Like that decision was made by General Amora. So this, but okay. What about you, Dern? What's up? So he wants like asymmetric warfare. He wants unconventional warfare. Well, Dern, like again, it takes all types, right? Like we have to fight this war full spectrum. So alliances are fragile. Impossible to preserve. Okay, well, a valid concern, but you represent approximately 1/3 of the capability to preserve it. So, extremely hypocritical statement, but all right. Your concern is acknowledged. Thank you for presenting it, Dern. Churn. They're all worried about your ability to lead this army into battle. You genuinely do have a credibility problem. So it turns out you were right to be concerned. Nobody trusts you. Yeah, so this is a valid point. Like, he's almost been given the title of general, like, on an honorary basis. It's kind of like an honorary degree, right? Hey, this university, the University of... there used to be a university in, like just north of D.C. in Maryland called the University of Maryland University College. Like, how can you have university twice and college once in your title? Like, the most ridiculous thing ever, right? They just renamed themselves a couple years ago because at some point they understood that it was just the most preposterous name ever for a school, and that presumably, like, they had a credibility problem, kind of like Trahearne, right? So let's say they give me an honorary degree, right? That doesn't mean I know anything necessarily in terms of formal education. It just means that I've demonstrated some knowledge or some credibility to the point where they're like, okay, we're going to give you this, but that doesn't necessarily translate to credibility among academics. Is an honorary thing, right? Kind of the same thing here, but military, which is extraordinarily unusual, has only happened, at least I only know of one case where anything like this happened in terms of the U.S. military, and it was an honorary thing that was bestowed out of appreciation and isn't necessarily relevant right now. It may have happened. Oh no, actually, I can think of two solid examples, but they're both very unique examples. But that's what's happened to Trahearne. So, surely they see your knowledge of ore makes you indispensable, and there's some military sense to that, right? Like cultural experts and geographical experts and political experts are an important part of the military planning and operation and kind of a military campaign, right? So we'll go with that. Indispensable does not mean inspiring. Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. Agreed. All right, we'll talk to the Smiths. Logistics are an incredibly important part of war, so let's do it, man. Let's talk to these Smiths. Let's make sure we got the HIMARS that we need. All right, Akam, what you got for me, man?
Thank you for coming. I'm Marshal Trahearne, and I've invited each of you here because you are the finest smiths and crafters in all of Tyria. I'm forging a pact to deal with the Elder Dragons. The 3 major orders of Tyria have agreed to join, but we also need you and your skills.
It would be an honor to stand with you, Firstborn.
Your envoy already approached me with a similar offer, Marshal. I've decided to accept. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
Ha! There's only one finest smith in Tyria, and you're looking at him. I stand ready to prove it.
Excellent. I have a list of potential projects. My quartermasters will make sure you have the tools and raw materials you need. Please begin at once.
Somebody, help me! The team studying Rancor ruins was overwhelmed by the undead.
Oh, and he just goes down. Oh, man. Okay, so we'll help him out in a minute. Messenger Nelson is going to have to hang in there for just a second while we talk about these dudes. A couple interesting things that pop up here. One, Bygarth, we should recognize that name. It was his daughter, was it not? Who helped get the siege weapons at Vigil headquarters into operating condition while the undead or the Risen were attacking Vigil headquarters. So we should recognize him as someone... And I think what's really communicated there is that he is a person of some repute. Like, this is a well-respected smith. And certainly he considers himself well-respected. He feels like he is the best smith in the world or whatever. So, if there are even a handful of other folks feel the same way, then maybe that there's some credibility to that. Occam said something, and undoubtedly this is a reference to Occam's razor, by the way. I don't see how that can, particularly since he crafts razors. He does pop up, as I recall, in the Sylvari, like level 10 or level 20 personal story, depending on the choices you make. I think it has to do with like the White Stag or something like that, if I remember correctly. But I do not enjoy Sylvari, so it's been a really long time since I played through that. I could easily be mistaken. By all means, check the Wikipedia if you want to know more about that. But certainly a reference to Occam's razor. More importantly, something Occam said, and we haven't really explored it because I don't enjoy playing Sylvari, and thus I played a human character, and we haven't had the opportunity to examine it to a great degree. It will come up later during Season 2, quite a bit, so we'll have a chance to really deep dive it then. But this thing about Firstborn, like there is this super weird case system written into the Sylvari and what they are. I think for ArenaNet, when they initially like put that together and kind of developed it, they probably thought that it was very intriguing, and it is intriguing. But it also, for me at least, like beyond the fact that I don't love like this whole like plant person thing doesn't appeal to me anyway. And that's fine. Everyone has like their preferences, right? I'm not into that whole thing anyway. But the whole caste system that exists within Sylvari culture is also, for me, exceptionally off-putting. And it's really interesting because ArenaNet in general has a lot of like imbalance written into the world of Tyria. There's a lot of oppression. There's a lot of inequality. There's a lot of what we would consider ethnic strife, but it's different here because these aren't ethnicities; they're actually like species, right? But there's a lot of that going on in the world of Tyria, and I don't know how that because it seems to not jive with kind of with what the studio stands for. But maybe that's exactly the point: is they've shown a world. Maybe even that aligns with the way they see this world, and they want better for Tyria, and they want better for this world or something, because they are definitely a studio that seems to kind of, be left to center, and we'll kind of leave it at that. So for the world of Tyria to be like so rife with inequality is a really interesting thing, and that's very much. And see, for Trahearne, that's nothing weird. There's a lot of suggestions, and again, we'll get way into this in Season 2. There's a lot of suggestions that the Firstborn of the Sylvari consider themselves well above. Trahearne considers himself above Occam, and that is actually kind of like a disturbing thing, but we will have more opportunity to examine that later. Nelson, bro, what's up? Scores of Risen. That's terrible. Rancor Ruins. So many. All right. Well, let's go and let's help these folks out. And so this is like a weird thing, right? From a military perspective, this is absolutely catastrophic. Absolutely catastrophic. Why would you take your commander? He is the marshal of the pact, the senior most member of the entire pact, and just to prove that this is my chance to allay some of the fears and concerns you've discovered. To prove that he is militarily competent, he is going to go on a small unit tactical operation, probably dangerous, just to prove himself. This is unbelievably bad decision making from a military perspective. But he is the commander, so I guess we're not going to argue. Instead, we'll let Tactician Art know, because this career soldier, who most certainly knows that this is a catastrophically stupid decision, is now stuck dealing with the consequences if things go bad. We're going to rescue the research team. I hope you're bringing a whole bunch. So there is, by the way, a unit between platoon and battalion. That would be company, but maybe he's saying battalion, and in the interest of hyperbole, or at least let me come along, because he accounts for a platoon at a minimum, if not a company or battalion personnel. This is stupid. Not necessary. Just watch our 6, man. Just watch our 6. Will do. Okay. Good luck, Tactician Art. Like I hope that nothing terrible happens to Concordia here while we are gone. All right. Let's go see if we can rescue these people from Rancor ruins. Fun stuff to come. I actually don't dislike this instance at all. I always have been like very intrigued by the researcher Rick here. Always, from the very first time I played this instance, all the way up till now. Like, they took the time to insert within this instance like a random researcher who's been downed by like apparently the foes of this area. Like, buddy. So the last thing I remember is my golems and I. And then there was an explosion. Like, we were in a fight, and then I come to, and I got like some scantily clad blonde, like rubbing my chest and bringing me back to life. Well, you're lucky for so many reasons. The undead attacked, and you're in a bad way. But the survey team. Okay, we'll go take care of the survey team, buddy. So again, coming back to like Wild Eye Miller, right? Like, they're really good at providing this flavor and making things like super interesting. One of their strong points for sure.
I'm glad to see you. Something is definitely unnatural here. That miasma settled in shortly after we arrived. Fortunately, our allies sent help. Agent Zuri from the Order of Whispers and Crusader Afanan from the Vigil.
At your service. Killing Orions is my purpose in life. But in the spirit of our newly forged union, this feels extra noble.
A pleasure to meet you, Commander. Take a good look. Once I get started, you won't see me coming or going.
Noted. Our objective is to locate a missing Priory team. Trahearne, this is your mission. How do you want us to handle it?
By playing to our respective strengths. Zuri goes in to conduct stealth reconnaissance, while the rest of us take the main path through the ruins. We'll draw the attention of any Orions, and thin out their numbers as we proceed. Let's all rendezvous at the far end of the site.
Oh man, Trahearne almost said something smart.
As soon as I know anything.
All right, good luck, Zuri. So he almost said something smart and then turned it into something stupid, right? So reconnaissance, particularly if she's capable of like extreme stealth, which apparently she is, then reconnaissance is like a really good idea. Charging ahead while your reconnaissance does their job is exceptionally stupid. It defeats the purpose of reconnaissance in the first place. So rapidly losing that credibility he seems to so desperately want is Trahearne. All right, so here we go, charging ahead, and hopefully, I don't know, what is our reconnaissance going to tell us once we're done killing all the enemies? Hey, good news, guys. I've discovered the identity, or the location of the enemy, and they're all dead because you killed them. So proud of you. I that's completely lost on me, but it's fine. I suspect there are approximately 0 months of combat experience across the internet as a whole. So I think we can kind of forgive them. They're as knowledgeable on military matters as I am on video game development, right? We'll put it that way. Okay, so this was the encampment. So the team that we're looking for, this would have been like where they were hanging out. And in fact, we got, here's a dead Priory dude, some Norn who is in like a burnt out tent. And do we have like, was this like some kind of structure they were staying in? Now it's collapsed. What else we got going on here? Oh, an ambush. Catastrophic. Oh, there's another one. Half buried at that. They just got their ass sticking up out of the ground. That's not how you want to be when zombies come looking for you. Like, I don't know. What do zombies do with a person who's buried up to their waist, ass sticking up out of the ground? Like, I don't even know what the implications of that are, to be 100% honest. I assume, that, however, that they are not good. Whatever the implications are, they're probably really bad. So... yeah, bad things, man. Bad things. Why did that... oh, he blew up the, this fortification here. So, yes, I kind of just wanted to kill these dudes for the sake of killing them. And then I got steamrolled by that dude, that plague dude. But, yes, so what he just destroyed are these fortifications over here. Which do tell us that, hey, you know, that this is likely where, like, our comrades are hanging out, right? Also, the big green arrow on our map also tells us this is likely where our comrades are hanging out. But they did a smart thing, right? And built some of these fortifications. We got some more of them. Okay, and we hear voices. And Trahearne making, like, extremely obvious observations, right? The same ones I'm making, actually. All right, we found part of the crew. Crew with a Krewe, which is like so stupid, but I still after 10 years get a kick out of crew. That the name of an assembly of Asura dedicated to a common goal is crew. That really like super entertains me. All right, so now we're gonna protect these dudes, who they themselves are coming down here and fighting. You know, crew apprentice Peck, and where did the other go to? Inya and Dobbs over here. Good job, Inya and Dobbs. So that is a standard line. That's a standard combat line for Asura. Vacate these premises. But it is one that I do get a kick out. I do really like Asura in some ways. I gave consideration to doing this playthrough as Asura. I really did. Because it is... they are like... such a... They're a fun thing, for sure. Come on, we should have 2 vet crate coming. Where are they? There we go. You know what? Let's buff our friends here. We should be able to share that. I don't know if it extends to NPCs, though. If these folks were like actually in our party, like other players, then that would extend to them. Because it's a trait thing, sharing one wolf pack. Alright, so we should have one more wave coming. And really is one of Soul Beast's like strongest things, I think. I am not, by any stretch of the imagination, like some sort of build theory crafter type person. Like, I leave that up to people who are way, way more knowledgeable than me on the game. Because really, so much of like build crafting is math. It is straight up math. Math in terms of cooldowns, math in terms of like the coefficients for how the buffs affect like total power and stuff like all those things. I can't even help my kid with their homework when it comes to math. I can help her with history and stuff, not math.
Are we glad to see you? Never seen a flood of Orions like that, and I've been doing this for years.
You're safe now. Stick close to us and we'll get you out of here intact.
What about our second team? They went ahead to secure a recent discovery right before the undead tide came in. They might still be alive.
I can confirm that. There are tracks leading into the caves. It's a defensible position, so the second team could be dug in there.
Then we're not leaving until we're sure, one way or the other. Spread out and protect the researchers. We're going on.
So can you imagine, like, conducting a research operation, right? Like, we're going to rescue these captives or these people who are pinned down. And you get there, and they're like, what about the second team? Oh, man. What a disappointment.
Found the entrance to the cavern.
Oh, good, Sri.
Barricaded shut.
Oh, no.
I've got this. Stand back.
Okay, so she's going to, like, do a thing. Does it actually show a bomb? It does not. That's a little disappointing. But she's put a bomb there. Explosives. Oh my. Oh my. People are kind of concerned about this whole explosives thing. Okay, so the artifact they were hunting. This is the first mission we got of it, or the first mention we got of this. There are a few times when like that actually is mentioned, and it is interesting. I don't think this is the super interesting one. I think that happens... Oh, man. Is that Season 2, actually? That we get, like, the really interesting one? I think it might be. But this artifact is relevant to the fight against the dragons as well. So, we do care about the artifact that this team was looking for. Oh, what do we got up here? Scholar Ink Blood? Alright, so that must be the team we're looking for. Oh, man. Savage Abomination. Scary stuff. Scary stuff. Savage. Oh, I missed with that. Embarrassing. No one to blame but myself. Oops. impeccable. I'm known for my impeccable timing. When people talk about me, one of the first things they usually mention is his timing is impeccable. All right. Kex. I like this guy. He's fun. He can pop up at other points in the story depending on some of the choices you make as well. Thank the alchemy you're here. So this is kind of the closest that a surrogate to having like some sort of deity is the eternal alchemy, and is not intended to be. It's more like a convergence of fate and serendipity and karma and kind of the process, the metaphysical unseen kind of stuff is kind of what eternal alchemy is. So that's what he's referencing. And so he's kind of like saying, thank our good fortunes, thank the functioning of the cosmos that you are here. Hey man, what were you guys looking for over here? An ancient dwarven tome from more than 250 years ago, right? So now we're going back to Guild Wars 1 timeline. It has information from the last time the dragons rose. It could conceivably hold the key to defeating them today. That sounds important. It's urgent that we get you and the tome out of here. All right, there's a way to the south. Well, let's do it then.
Commander, you lead the way. Keep together and stay on your guard.
Roger that. Oh, are they getting attacked? I took off too fast. Left them behind. So I don't know if there's like a little bit of a mistake in the dialogue or whatever, but it appears Kekta's like, hey, there's a way out to the south. Should have less enemies than the way you came. But is this not the way we came? Let's check. Oh, it's not. No. Okay, so it is the other way. Cool. Thanks, Kekt. I should pay better attention to my map. I am bad at land navigation, apparently. Which may in fact be true. It might be. I did get lost once in Afghanistan. That was a little bit scary. In my defense, it was pitch black. Anyway, another story for another time.
Disturbingly advanced tactics ever since we arrived.
Commander, to me. I need your opinion.
To me. So this is kind of one of the running jokes in the community about like Trahearne. Like when people talk about Trahearne, you'll get someone who's like, to me, Commander, because he'll do that several times. Like it. All right, Roger Trahearne. So one of the interesting observations that I've made a couple times, Agent Zri, the Orions funneled us here. They've shown disturbingly advanced tactics ever since we arrived. And so this does, again, reinforce the idea that the dragons are pretty intelligent and that they spread that intelligence, or at least in most cases, and they spread their intelligence across their minions and so forth, and that their minions are capable of like advanced function, if not advanced thought. And there is, like sometimes they're portrayed that way, and sometimes they're portrayed as kind of stupid. So you kind of get this push-pull on that.
Another dead end. Militarily, I'd say we're being funneled into a trap.
I've seen the Orions swarm and I've seen them lurk, but I've never seen them set traps. Are they capable of tactical thinking?
Oh, yes. I've seen them do exquisitely horrible things. If the Priory team found the artifact I suspect they found, it all makes sense.
They were looking for a dwarven tome. Why would Zaitan care so much about an ancient book of lore?
I believe it contains information about the last time the dragons rose. Its very existence proves they can be beaten back. Our enemy wants to keep that information from us.
How does the dragon even know about it? Zaitan doesn't strike me as much of a reader.
Zaitan knows everything its minions know. One of its corrupted servants, while alive or after death, must have seen the tome. Commander, to me. I believe I can get us out of this situation, but I'll need you to protect me while I do it.
But I can summon the reinforcements we need to fight our way out.
Alright, you should do that.
My minions will aid in our escape. Buy me some time to prepare.
That happens a few times in the core, like, personal story, where the dialogue that's being shown on the screen and the voice acting doesn't quite match. It's a pretty small thing, all everything considered, but it does happen a few times. All right, so he just summoned these plague carriers will get you if you let them get too close. They'll give you a bad day. So he just summoned like all these flesh golems, right? Which there are a number of times within the story where an NPC will do something that far exceeds what the player character is capable of, while demonstrating an exact skill or exact like class capability or something like that that players do have. You know, so like without going too much into spoilers, like we will. Well, I don't even want to go there. But we'll see this again from time to time where an NPC is like the same class as us or is a certain class, but is just like capable of like this really crazy thing, right? You know, if they did a better job at making the player character like a person who contributes to saving the world rather than the person who does save the world, that would make that a lot more acceptable, right? The fact that there are other like really powerful folks out there who are also contributing becomes a lot more viable when you aren't presented as like by far the most powerful. But because they do present us as by far the most powerful, at least the majority of the time, then, you know, for a necromancer to summon 5 flesh golems as well as other minions all at once, like, well, now that's kind of silly, right? But I think probably at the point that this was developed, maybe a little bit less thought went into that. And in Guild Wars 1, which was the current standard when this was being developed, you could run a lot more minions than you can in Guild Wars 2. That was kind of moderated to a greater degree, or not, maybe not moderated, but it was, you know, they wanted to kind of set a cap on that for Guild Wars 2, probably for balance reasons. So one of the interesting things about Guild Wars 1, or, you know, the first game, again, it wasn't called Guild Wars 1, it was just called Guild Wars. But one of the interesting things about the first game is from a balance perspective, it was an absolute mess, and that's because they gave the players so much freedom when it came to skills and how those skills interacted with each other and how you could set up your skill bar and all that. I mean, there was so much room for diversity that I genuinely feel like it would be almost impossible to balance. And so as they were kind of getting the game ready for maintenance, I don't think the goal was for it to be balanced per se, but just for it to be like at a point where it's acceptable. Now with the game having been in maintenance for, you know, a decade, you know, I'm sure there's like very concrete meta builds that will never change because the game's never going to change. Having said that, it's been a minute since I really looked into it. I've poked around in Guild Wars 1 a few times, but over the last 10 years, but not played it seriously.
Trapped you here. Now you die here. The elements bow before me, and I bow before Zaitan. He willed your death. He shall have it.
I was born to undo your master's work. If I must kill you to achieve that, so be it.
All right, so this champion, or this lieutenant of Zaitan here, kind of presents himself as quite formidable, and at launch, this was a more challenging encounter than it is these days, and you had to really be deliberate about taking care of these other minions first, or they would really wear you down. So you know, definitely, time has very much changed kind of how all this stuff kind of works out. But that's, you know, that's the natural progression of the game. I do think power creeping in Guild Wars 2 has definitely gotten worse. The studio seems to have accepted it more as a natural course as time has gone on, and maybe even more than they should accept it. But just the same, you know, obviously a degree of that's going to happen.
Well done, Marshal Trahearne. That Orient ugly looked nigh unstoppable. But you did it.
The Pact did it. Our combined efforts made this happen, just as we'll defeat Zaitan together. Hopefully, our chances of doing just that have been improved with the information contained inside the Dwarven Tome.
We can help you there. I'm fluent in Ancient Dwarf. Get us out of here and I'll work on that tome until it's completely translated.
done. Zuri, please escort the research teams back to Concordia. Commander, you're with me.
Okay. Good luck, Zuri. Taking care of him, I guess. What's up, Trahearne? What do you got for me, buddy? First step in a long, perilous journey. Well, yes, we didn't kill Zaitan, so presumably there is more left here. I'm ready for it, though. Let's do it. Is that really what he kept us from assisting on the escort just to say that? Like, that is... I don't know that was the right decision, but okay, Trahearne. Do we have them? We do? Cool. Well, that much closer to using mislocked singularities, which I am... Ooh, we need 3 more. We'll get those, though, as we advance through the story. So, no concerns here. Alright. So we got our next mission listed up here. But I will say, for YouTube purposes, this is where I will create the break. Because these instances are long enough, that one instance is where we're gonna, wrap it up. Thank you for hanging out with me as we went into Concordia and rescued the research team and kind of learned a little bit more about Trahearne establishing himself as, Marshal of the Pact and so forth. Going forward, we're going to meet Demolitionist Ton and engage in what I think is one of the more meaningful chapters of the core story. So that's where we'll pick it up in the next video. And again, thank you.